And so anyway, while we were in there one night, I had read in the paper about the Small Business Administration was going to start making loans, and I told Al about it, and he went in and applied, and they gave him the money to get that place out in Thornton. You remember where he had that
Yeah,
place?
when he had the farm, yeah.
Yeah, where he had the dairy.
Yeah.
And I was instrumental in getting him started on it anyway.
Yeah.
And so Millie and I used to go out there a lot.
Yeah, well, I remember going out there as a kid, playing around in the haystacks and...
Yeah.
And
I think he started out with 40 cows.
Huh?
Yeah, I think he started out with 40 cows.
Yeah.
And they had a great thing going, nice new little house and everything else, and then Ruth messed that up, you know. When she got mixed up with, not Himley, but the farmer next door.
I hadn't heard about that, but that fits in the program.
Yeah. So, anyway, and then when that thing fell through for her, I said she got involved with Himley. And some of her kids took the name Himley and some didn't. Well, you know that better than I do.
Yeah, Bud and John took it, yeah.
Bud and John did?
Yeah. What do you remember about Dad's relationship with Roy Rogers? Do you remember?
With Roy Rogers? Well, they grew up together there in Lawndale. You know that your dad at one time was offered a chance to play in the movie with him, and when they got him there at the studio, they had put him in a chair and they started putting makeup on him, and he said, "What the hell are you doing?" And he said, "Forget it," and he walked out.
Oh, he missed his chance.
He wouldn't do that.
Oh.
Well, anyway, Roy, your dad never called him Roy, he always called him Len.
Yeah.
Even after he took the name Roy Rogers. And when they gave him the name, why, there was a stage actor in New York who had the name Roy Rogers. They had it long before Len ever got it. And he sued the studio. So the studio bought the name from him and gave it to Len. And Gene Autry at that time was the big wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a hot pants and he wouldn't do a role. And there was the picture was called Under Western Skies, as I remember. And so Roy had done some small parts. And so they put him in there and he clicked. And from then on it was just open sesame. Anything he wanted, he got.
Yeah, he's cute. I had a crush on him.
And every time that we'd go through there, well, we'd stop at his place. And he bought the first one, and it was right in what later on became in the valley there, San Fernando Valley. It was a little chicken ranch, and he bought it and gave it to his mother and dad. But then their business got bigger, so he bought a bigger place for them, and he sold that one there. But Roy was always a very congenial sort of person, and you know, didn't make any difference when or where he saw you. If he met you somewhere, he was a glad hander. And he was that way. His first wife was a young Mexican gal who claimed that he was playing around with her, and she claimed that she got knocked up, and she wasn't. But Roy married her anyway. And he divorced her, she divorced something or other. And then he married Roy's mother, the young Roy married his mother, and I don't know what she would not let Roy's friends, like your father, she would not let them in the house where they were living. In other words, she didn't want to have anything to do with any of Roy's friends that were not in the movie industry.
I remember us visiting their ranch, but I don't remember ever being inside the house. It was outside, and we were playing with our cousins or something in the pool or in the empty pool area. And the dogs, we heard puppies in the garage, never got to see them.
She would not let the people in. Well, anyway.
Was that Dale Evans?
No. That was his second wife. Dale Evans was his third wife.
Oh, okay.
Or fourth. Third one, I think. Well, anyhow, because of this friction about the friends and stuff like this, your father was one of the guys that climbed Roy's frame about it. And, you know, Les had known them since they were kids, or not kids, but since they'd come out here from Cleveland, Ohio. And your dad was the guy that taught Roy how to yodel, playing the guitar and taught him to yodel. And but Les never could get in with the bunch that became the Sons of Pioneers.
Oh.
And
They used to jam it.
Huh?
Didn't they used to jam at
yeah,
Grandpa's house and
Yeah.
Grandma and Grandpa's?
and
What instrument did you
Les played the guitar.
Oh, you did.
I
And
play the guitar.
when he had
Forgot to get me.
things right, he could yodel like a Swissy.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, I remember a couple
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Les could really yodel.
Yeah. He had to have a couple.
Yeah, but he could really
I can remember
yodel.
going out on Sunday drives, and he would start singing and yodel, and we'd wind up in Lockford and go and have pie and ice cream at that
Huh.
that little shop there just at the
But,
entrance of Lockford.
Anyway, I have an idea that Kathleen, did you know Kathleen?
Yeah, I think it was Kathleen and her husband that stopped by on East Minor one time.
Well, Kathleen kind of had an eye for your father, but he never wanted. Well, anyway,
Kathleen who?
Roy's sister.
Sister, Roy Rogers' sister.
Oh.
But your dad could have been in the movies,
Yes.
but he wouldn't let him put makeup on him.
Oh, gosh.
That's funny. That's the first time we've heard that.
That's a very interesting story.
So anyway, get back to Dale. Roy's wife, he wanted a kid and she didn't want to have any. And then he'd met Dale Evans in the meantime. The girl that wouldn't let the people in the house, she figured, well, if he's going to leave me, I just well get knocked up and have his kid. So she got pregnant. That's with the son that Roy Jr., I guess. And when she went into the hospital, he in the meantime had gotten involved with Dale Evans. Dale had gotten his pants, and so that was the way it was. And Dale was putting pressure on him to get a divorce and marry her. And the night that she died, the wife died, they'd walked into the hospital, and Dale issued a ultimatum to Roy. She said, okay, now you tell her when you go up to see her tonight. And Roy promised he would, but when he get up there, why, either she was not feeling too sporty or something, but he didn't do it. And so he come downstairs, and he told Dale that he had not done anything. And Dale raised a bit of a scene, and they took off. When they come back, why, their wife had developed blood clot and died while they were going that night.
Oh,
Hmm.
wow.
So anyway, then he had open field. And the January the 1st of 1947, Roy and Dale were coming back cross country, and they were coming out into this part of the country, and they were in Texas, New Year's Eve, 1947, and they got married. He married her. And they had a good life. I mean, they adopted a dozen kids and all that kind of stuff. And Dale was quite a bit older than Roy was.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Huh.
She always said that she had a son when she married Roy. And he was 20. She was supposed to be 28 years old, and the son was 21.
Huh.
So we never knew exactly, but for years, they said that she was younger than he was, and which didn't make diddly poop anyway,
Yeah,
because they were happy and had a good life,
yeah.
and they did a lot of good.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, the one natural daughter they had was a
Yeah.
what do they call that?
Mongoloid? No.
Yeah, it's,
Mongoloid?
I think so. Yeah, what do they? There's another name for it,
Yeah, there is.
but I can't. But anyhow, she.
Autistic?
No. It was.
Can't think of it.
Gee, it's what they test all the mothers for now.
I know.
But that's what really brought them really close together, and and supporting that.
But they adopted 8 or 10 different kids of different races and everything else. And as I said, they did a lot of good. Later on in life, they raised an awful lot of money for charity and stuff. And he was always as gracious as you could be. Dale was a little uppity, but then she got better on as she got older.
Yeah, I stopped by their museum, yeah, his place, when he was still alive.
He was there?
No, it wasn't. But I left him a long letter describing who I was and who Dad was and all that stuff. Never heard the thing.
Oh,
Never heard the thing.
Did you know, have you ever seen the picture that Mom had of Roy Rogers that signed Dick Weston?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that one.
Oh.
Well, they gave him the name Dick Weston at one time.
Yeah, to start with, that was the first movie, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
But he had a singer named Les Sly. It was a better singer than Roy was, and Roy tried to get him started, but he couldn't leave the bottle alone. And he was a drunk, and he used to bring me records at the theater, you know, and I'd play them or have the projections play them in the theater. And because we didn't have intermissions like they have nowadays. My boss was dead set against any advertising on the screen or anything like that. So we play these records. And Roy's sisters and Roy's mother was crippled. You know, she was a gimp leg, and she played the mandolin. And she used to make that thing talk. I remember I was at a couple of wingdings in the house in Lawndale, and there was Bob Nolan and the Far Boys and Pat, whatever his name was.
Buttram?
Yeah, they were all there. And man, the noise would come out of that house, it would just drive you fruity. And the people would go around and, you know, stand around and waiting for him to listen to him. But then, when they moved out of Lawndale, why,
I played the guitar.
Kathleen, she was married to a guy named Frank,
See if I can get my hands.
who was another drunk. I don't know, that family was all Les, the best singer of the bunch, and a hell of a good-looking guy, but he couldn't leave booze alone. So Frankie died suddenly, and Kathleen used to come in. She met a nice guy, and she brought him to the theater one night, and Millie was behind the candy bar, and when she come in the door, well, I hadn't seen Kathleen for a long time, and she introduced me to this guy that she later married, and I don't remember his name. But they were living in Hawthorne at that time.
I remember when they visited us, they had some kids that we ended up playing with while they were there, and their car, as I remember, had things strapped all over it. It looked like from Oklahoma. But what I remember is when they left, man, we had these paper airplanes all over the yard that we'd been playing with. We were making these paper airplanes and throwing them around. But that's about all I remember that. But about you being managing the theater, I remember one time you and I went to another theater, and you bought the tickets. We went in and we sat in for the drawing, and then we left. They had a drawing for some kind of prize.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's very distinct that we did it, but I don't know where it was, but I know it was you and I. I was a kid, obviously, and you were just, I guess, had, you know, the drawing must have been for something pretty good, worth getting a couple tickets for.
I used to put on what we called Keno Win back in those days, and it was like lottery tickets or bingo tickets now, and we had a circle on the screen that was about 10 feet high, and I'd get out there and in the orchestra pit in front of the band or in front of the stage, and I'd push a button and this great big old dial would turn, and I'd stop it, and whatever number the dial stopped on, that's the number I called, and the people would punch their tickets. And on our ticket board, we had two bunches of numbers. The first prizes from 1 to 50 ran from $1 to $50. The bottom half of the board started at $5 and it went to $100 or $150. And so I would take down $150 with me when I went on the stage, and most of the times I gave most of that away, you know, with people, and I'd have at least 10 or 12 winners, and we put that on, and you know, people got to know me real well. And one night my boss was there, and he and Millie were standing off in the wings when I got up on the stage, and I always wore a tuxedo on. We put the games on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday nights, and those nights the house would be packed like this. And I come running out of the wings out onto the stage, and when I'm carrying my microphone, and I had my tux pulled up like this, my white socks were showing. And my boss says to Millie, "What's that damn fool doing with white stockings on with a tuxedo?" And she's, "Well, you better ask him, Ned." And when the Jolson story, I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah.
We premiered it in our area, in my theater. And Al Jolson and Georgie Jessel and Harry Richmond and one other guy that was a big comedian back in those days, they came there for the premiere in our little town. And so I got a picture around here somewhere from Al Jolson that says something addressed to me, and it says, "Give my best to your lovely Millie," you know, and signed Al Jolson. But anyway,
Nice.
while we were standing there talking about this picture on the screen, I said, now you've been on the stage all your life. What advice could you give somebody like me, for instance? I'm not going to come out and get in the movies, but I have a little stage work to do here. What can I do to keep the butterflies down in my stomach? And he said, all the time I spent, every time I'd come out on that stage, he says, I'd get iceberg in my belly. And he said, I would pick one person out in the audience, and I'd talk to that one person, not take my eyes off, and it worked. And then he said, as far as the White Sox are concerned, he said, when I'm running the crowd on the stage and the people see those White Sox, it takes their eyes off of my face.
Oh, yeah. Good
So I
idea.
tried it. And my boss, he blew his stack. He said, "What's that damn fool doing with white socks on in a tuxedo?" And I always did. I always wore white socks with a tuxedo.
I remember something about painting little flies on urinals. Remember anything about that?
No.
Somebody told me you had that done in the theater in the boys' room because they were making a mess every time and that gave them something to aim at.
We had
Is that an untrue story?
I don't know what you're talking about. There's so much has happened in my younger days that I don't remember. We had big mirrors in the girls' room.
They were two-way?
Huh?
And there were two-way mirrors?
No. But the girls that go in there, they'd kiss on those mirrors and put their lips all over the mirrors, and then they'd draw men's privates on there, and they'd say, "Hey, you ought to see Joe, he's got so-and-so," you know. And whenever we'd have a full house, I'd send one of the girls that was on the floor, I'd say, "Go in there and check the restroom," and if it was dirty or something, I'd lay a chair across the door, and I'd send the ushers in to clean it up. But anyway. But they kiss those walls and kiss the mirrors and everything, you know, and they stop and think, "Jesus," or they didn't stop and think. And
I heard you talking one time about being in the I don't know what picture, whether it was Universal or some other picture commissary. Did you ever?
well, we used to go down to what we call the Film Road, down on Vermont and Normandy or wherever. No. All the studios had their exchanges in there. That's where you went in and you bought your pictures, or you not bought them, where you rented them. And you had to rent them, like for instance, I had to follow Inglewood by 7 days. I could not play it the same date, or I could not play ahead of Inglewood. That's built in there picture contracts for centuries back, or years, hundreds of years back anyway. And we used to go down to the exchange, and whenever there was some big picture coming out, right, Warner Brothers or MGM or Universal or Fox, they would put these specials on, and we were allowed to bring, like me, being a manager or business agent, I was allowed to bring my family. So I used to take Millie, and I'd take her with me when I'd go on the road. I had to go on the road every morning at 8 o'clock to go and sign up pictures and get posters and all that kind of crap. And so we'd go in and we'd sit there and watch the movies that had not been released to the general public yet. And lots of times we saw them before they were cut and edited, you know, because for each 100 feet of film that they wind up with, they had thousands of feet of preliminary stuff and other things like that they cut, and they wind up on the cutting room floor before the finished product come out. And there was the favorite place of all was this Jewish delicatessen right there on the road. And we used to eat in there every time we'd go down. And their favorite was corned beef on rye, you know. And they used to make the damnedest corned beef sandwiches, big hunk corned beef bread, that thing, and corned beef slice piled on it an inch thick with mustard and pickles and all that for 35 cents. And Millie used to just love those things. I'd take her down and I'd put her at a table and I'd go up and order, you know, a couple of corned beef sandwiches and anything else she might want, which she usually wanted a cup of coffee. And of course we got to know those guys, and they'd take out these hunks of corned beef that big and they'd stop it down there and they slice it off right there in front of you, you know. Oh man. They had other foods, but corned beef sandwiches was their favorite, their big seller. And we'd go into these, usually when I'd have her with me, when I was taking her in to see a preview, you know. And I took Melvin with us many times. And Warner Brothers had a beautiful theater right there on the road. And Fox West Coast owned the, name it. And they had a penthouse apartment on top, up on the top floor. And Charlie Skouras and his brothers who owned Fox West Coast, they used to come in and they'd stay in this penthouse. And they'd throw wild parties in there, you know. And so whenever they put on a show in his place, he always come out on the stage and talk to the people that were out there. And he always, before you start the program, Charlie Skouras and I forget what his brother's name was. But
yeah, the story I heard had you in one of the commissaries, and you were at a table near Bing Crosby and Bob Hope.
yeah.
Light was
Well, when
pushed back the other way. It's
when the
right in
business started going to pot,
floor one.
after TV come in, the studios would rent the Ambassador Club or the Shriners Club there in LA, and they put on these feeds and stuff like that, and they'd invite all the managers and their families to come in, and they set these tables up with 4 people, and they'd seat 3 people around, and then the fourth chair was empty. And when you got seated down there, one of the big stars would come in and would sit down at your table, and they'd introduce themselves and talk, and you know, ask if you had any ideas about what they could do to stop the downslide of the attendance on the movies, because the main theater I ran, why the tickets were 50 cents, and went from running $3,000 a week to just a few $100s, you know. The attendance dropped that much when TV come in.
Wow.
And it cost, when I was there, it cost $1,300 and some odd dollars a week just to open the doors. That was beside the cost of the product on the screen. But then when Millie took over the candy operation for all the theaters, why, the candy concession used to pay the rent on the theater building. And what we made on candy why that paid for, you know, the rent on the building.
That's if you had enough people coming through.
Yeah. We broke it down and we figured that every person that came through that door spent 90 cents at that candy bar. And that was when 90 cents was a good piece of money. You know, it's been a lot of years ago.
Mhm. Now it's about $7, $8, $9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bag of popcorn's $3.
Yeah, or more.
Or more,
Yeah. I got on to Mel and Ruth when they told me they were paying $65 a month for TV cable. I said, what for? Well, Ruth said, we never go anywhere. If we go to the movies, it's $35 for the three of us, besides the cost of the ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Says Candy goes in and she'll blow $2 or $3 on a bag of popcorn and $5 or $6 on a sandwich. $10 take nothing. Said we spent $35 or $40 just to go to the movie. So,
That's true.
but while I was at while I was at the theater their way, we pulled out the last 8 or 9 rows of seats across the back end of of course, you know, it was a stadium floor like this, and come down to a point down at the screen. The main theater I was in, the main one I managed was 997 seats. And when I went to start working there as a manager, why, we'd sell out 3-4 nights a week. With 3 nights we'd have those Keno win games, and then towards the end of the thing we started giving away prizes like bicycles for the kids and all that kind of crap. And we'd be full almost every night. And I used to enjoy, I was a ham, you know, I used to enjoy getting up on that stage and